everyone. It's Megs here, obviously from Watch Your Language, and I'm here with Rod Cooper, the owner of the Movement Collective in town here at Newcastle. And I'm just pretty pumped. I've sort of wanted to have this conversation for a while. As many of you know, just perfection, comparison, competition was a big part of my life. I feel it's a big part of many other people's lives as well. And I wanted to have a chat because there's not just girls that go through this comparing and judgment and just constant trying to be someone else or match someone else or be anything other than what we are. And I thought who better to have a conversation with than Rod Cooper. So thanks, Rod.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm really interested in these topics and I'm excited to share.
Yeah, amazing. It's it's something that I think that's close to both of our hearts. And I think, Rod, you've had the Movement Collective now 7 years, is that correct?
Yeah, last week we had our 7th birthday. So
wow.
2015 was when we first started.
Amazing. That's so good. I remember when you first opened up back in Wickham, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, in the little studio at Wickham.
Yeah, it's like 200 square meters. That was actually our second place that we're operating.
Wow. Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah. And now we're in this like 700 square meter place at Warrior.
Yeah, and it has coffee downstairs as well, I just noticed.
Yeah, coffee vendors, come and check it out.
Yeah, it looks so good. But it just been amazing. Like I've known Rod and Jen for, that time. And look, it's just been a movement especially, and I just want to touch on movement for a little bit because it really changed my life. I sort of came from the fitness industry, so to speak, of a very rigid, just lifting weights, constantly teaching classes. I was always searching but never arriving.
Yeah.
I was just looking for these goals, and when I'd hit them, I would want to find another one. So I just never ever felt in a place of content.
Yes. Yeah, I felt that as well. So I did like bodybuilding style training, and it was always about setting the goal, working as hard as you could, like forcing yourself to reach the goal at no matter what cost, even if it was your own health to reach the goal. But then once you reach the goal, you understand that that's not it.
Yeah.
So then if you're in that loop or that pattern, then you just set another goal.
Yep.
And at some point you'll realize that's not the way. So
yeah, so I so agree, and it's just something that it's this constant more, and that's really freaking exhausting. Like it's so tiring, not only physically but mentally, because we're spending so much time on our thoughts and our actions and our behaviors to try to compete or to do something else with our bodies where we never really reach that end point. And so I wanted to just sort of discuss on a few things today with Rod, just on those 3 topics, which is perfection, competition, and comparison. And I just wanted to ask you, how is that particularly, maybe just perfection for now, but how has that shown up in your life?
Oh, shown up heaps.
Yeah.
Yeah, all through my training, through my careers, through work, through running a business. Always, it's like a part of me. And I'll sort of speak in this language because it's a part of me that wants to be perfect. Yeah. And the big thing for me was realizing that it is just a part of me and there's all these other parts as well. And it's like having a conversation and communicating with that part was huge. So understanding that part lives inside me and it wants to be perfect and it can't want to be anything else. Do you know what I mean? Like that's its driver. Have you seen Inside Out? Kids movie? Just like that. It's like there's joy and there's anger and all these parts live inside of us. And perfectionism is just one part of me that it can't be joy or it can't be happiness. It can't be anything else other than that. So it's having a conversation and understanding why does it want to be like that? Why is perfection so important to that part of me? Yeah, I really love that. It's kind of about honoring that part of us, isn't it? Or and just giving it, I guess, permission. We tend to judge these things. I think myself included. I've spent since I was 6 years old so much time in perfection and people pleasing myself, which of course I dive into all that in the book. But when I learnt to accept or to honor it and actually ask the question, and I think Rod says this in one of his videos, it's like, why are you showing up? What are you here to teach me? Or what is this about? Why am I being triggered?
I believe we can investigate a little bit further into why we're feeling the need to be perfect or to people please, which for me comes down to a sense of not feeling love, but that's my experience.
Yeah, it's my experience too.
Yeah,
So that perfectionism, having that conversation, acknowledging it like you said, and then starting to build a relationship and understanding why it's there and why is it so important for things to be perfect for that part. And by understanding that, you start to realize that perfectionism is just there to keep you safe. Because the conversations that I've had with that part is that, I just want you to be the best version of yourself. That's what it says to me. It's like, I want you to be the best. I don't want you to fail. I want everything to be perfect so you can be loved and appreciated and honored and you can live the best life. So it's really got this, it just loves you so much. It loves you so much and it'll do anything in its power to make sure everything's perfect. The problem arises when we listen to Mr. Perfection and we allow that to like sit on the throne or drive the bus of our life. And then we look at everything in our life and then judgment comes up, like you said. And if we're looking at everything and we judge everything and we feel like nothing's perfect and then we judge ourselves for not being perfect, for not meeting the standard that was created and set by that part of us, then some problems can arise. And you develop some habits and patterns that will really have a negative impact on your life if you don't step up and like find your center and really understand that it's just a small part of you, that you need to give it love, but also you're in charge as well.
100%.
And it's not Mr. Perfect is not Rod. Like I'm not running my life as Mr. Perfect.
That makes so much sense. It's just about, I think, changing the perspective on how we see it. Wayne Dyer once said, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. And if we are, I just talk on, I guess, my experience with it. I used to really hate this side of me that was looking for perfection and, again, people pleasing. I used to think, again, coming down to the story of not being enough or not being worthy. And I would really dislike that person, so I was faced with resistance. And they say that tension only creates more tension. And then, of course, practice and repetition of that, we're just firing and wiring the same neurons. So when we're faced with an uncomfortable situation in our environment, or we might be scrolling through our Instagram feeds or TikTok feeds and we see someone that's, I guess, we might compare ourselves to, straight away we go back to the dialogue of not being enough. And it's really hard to catch it in that moment, and hence where the fall down the mountain kind of starts, and the dialogue, the actions, the words, behaviors all become self-sabotaging in that sense. Using perfection, I guess, as a tool to help us can be something like really, really powerful, shifting the way we see it.
And it's just here to help. That's what we need to understand. And like you said, if you try to fight it and put it under the rug or put it in the basement, that's the language that we use. That at some point, because you're not like getting rid of it. No. At some point, it's going to come back. And what tends to happen with some of these things is it'll grow. And it'll happen and come
like
up.
Building weights in a gym. It's just kids.
Put it down, and it will grow bigger and bigger and bigger until it's this big, overwhelming monster. Sometimes it seems like that you've put it aside and you've avoided it so long that when you go to address that issue, it is so overwhelming and so scary. So it's really, what you said, becoming aware of what patterns are coming up in your life. And this really comes from like slowing down and recognizing these patterns that are showing up, having and building a relationship with those things. It changes it completely, I think, when we can just sort of soften and invite it in. And one of the things that it's still a practice for me, of course, but when things show up for me, I say thank you now, like to anything, perfection, people pleasing, shame, guilt, whatever. When it arises, one of the big things I do is I take a breath in and a breath out. I soften, I open my heart. So I don't want to come in closed. I actually physically try to hold myself open. I say, thank you. Thank you for showing up perfection. Thank you for showing up shame, for showing me what I need to do the work in. Because there's something underneath that. There's something that has caused me to
believe I need to be perfect, or to believe that feeling of not feeling enough, or whatever that is. And that's to me, that's doing the work and diving underneath that.
Yeah, you can begin to ask the questions like, where did you come from?
Totally.
And that's where you can start the journey of understanding all these different things that you've mentioned, and you start to go on a bit of a journey with them. And it's, again, like, think of it like a friend that you've just met for the first time, and that friend, say it's anger, and they're really angry, and you sit down with them and you say, like, what's going on? You know, you talk to them like that, like, what's happening? And then they'll start to tell you, oh, someone cut us off in traffic just then, and we're late, and this happened, and this person's pissing me off, and you just go, cool. And you just start to chip away and just start to have that conversation with them. And potentially it can go deeper and deeper and deeper until you start to uncover all these different memories or scenarios or events that happened in your life when you're a kid, when you're a teenager, when you're a young adult, and how that had an impact on that part. And I'll start to share and open up, and then you can start to really understand why they're there. And again, it just comes back to they're there to love and protect you, and it's now our chance and this opportunity to love and protect them, not tell them to shut up.
Yeah, and that's the thing, anything suppressed, it doesn't go away.
Nope.
we know that.
Definitely not.
You know, like I'm like 41 now, and it's anything, you know, growing up in my childhood, it was almost the belief that if we don't talk about it, or if we push it down, it'll go away one day, and it doesn't. It that's what Rod said, it builds energy, it's energy, and the moment we're triggered in our environment, it comes up and we feel it, and that's when it's presenting to be heard or to be given a love. And as what Rod said, to actually say, hey, right, why are you here? What is this about? And
how can I serve you and love you?
Totally. Offering compassion rather than criticism. Again, it's just a different energy to that as well. Oh, thank you. Competition, though. Like,
competition.
I got a couple of male clients myself. 2 21-year-olds and also younger as well. And I've actually got a question here, actually, which I will read out. I just in flow with it. So this is from Mark, and I just want to speak on this.
This is cool. You asked him that.
Yeah, so I got a couple sent through last night.
Yeah, nice.
So he said, I'm at the gym every day, and how can I be okay with where I'm at? He says, I constantly feel like I'm searching for more weights, bigger muscles, more gains.
Yeah.
Right? So...
Classic.
Yep, go for it. I'd love your take on this.
So it's probably through comparison. So this is another thing that you want to talk about today as well. Comparison, for me, it's like comparison and judgment sort of come together. And the way that this has shown up in my life, it comes in kind of two forms for me. It's like looking at people and how they are. So say it's like this situation, you know, like you're trying to make your body look better, right? So you're trying to gain muscle, you're trying to get leaner or something like that. So then that's the goal. So then parts of you will start to recognize and look at other people in your gym or in your area, Instagram, Facebook, things like that. And you'll start to create this kind of map, and you'll put people on this map, and you'll start to create this hierarchy of this person is here. And the opposite too. So there's two ways that it comes up. And this is something that I learned recently from doing the work. It's like I was putting people on a pedestal, and then by doing that, it's like this duality. It's like if you put someone here, then automatically, you know, you're going to put yourself down here somewhere. So then there's this disconnect or this comparison, and already you're telling yourself that you're not enough. And again, that's just a part of you that's doing that. So have a conversation and just ask, why are we doing this? Why are we putting that person up here? And for me, when I asked that question, the part of me was saying, hey, you know, we want to be better. We want to be more like them. And then it's like nurturing them, and just like you would talk to, it was like my little boy. So it's like talking to a little child that's like, you know, I wish I was, you know, prettier or something like that. I wish I looked like someone else in my class. And you'd be like, no, you're beautiful the way you are. And you would honor them and allow them to start to see how they are in the moment and how beautiful and how treasured they are. So it's about that. The comparison so going up the hierarchy, but then also I noticed coming down as well. So by looking at people, like I would put people at a lower level than me, even in business. Totally. Even in business as well. And this is something that I noticed recently, that I would see businesses on Instagram or whatever, like gyms or something like that that's relative to what we're doing here at TMC, and I would put them down here, so then that would make parts of me feel better about where we were at.
Yeah.
So then it can come in two different directions.
Yeah.
And then with all of that, it is recognizing it and understanding that you can't, it's like future focused. It's like creating depression because you're not like you used to be when you were younger, or you're not like you want to be, so which is anxiety. So there are also two parts of you that need to have a conversation with you, and then you should want to have a conversation with them.
Totally.
And you can start to understand like why is that important for them, but it'll all boil down to they just want to be loved.
Yeah.
And if you can give yourself this self-love, and it can be a bit of a journey as well, it can't be hard, especially if you've put stuff under the rug for ages, it starts to build, right? If you've lived your entire life, and for me I'm 37, and I just learned this stuff recently, and I used to use this comparison and this judgment to other people. My story was like, I'm the little guy. Like I'm 70 kilos, most men are like 80 kilos plus, right? So throughout high school, my teen would always compare, just like this guy's saying. I was at the gym trying to get bigger, trying to be stronger so I could protect myself. And the reason those parts of me were coming up it's really like this forcing energy, trying to force ourselves to be somewhere where we're not.
Yep.
And the reason that part was doing that was to protect me, because I'm the little guy, I need to be stronger, I need to pick up more girls, I need to be more attractive, I need to be better looking.
This is what I need to
and it's like, it's all things that are outside of ourselves, and the focus needs to just slow down and come back to self-love.
Yep.
That's what it all boils down to. We're going to talk about all this stuff today, but really I'm going to keep saying the same thing, and it seems so simple, but again it can be quite hard to do that, and there's parts of you that will feel like you don't deserve love, that you don't deserve to feel good about yourself.
Absolutely.
And they're also parts that need a conversation and love.
Yeah, I love that. And it's actually the similar conversation that I do have with these guys, whether it's big guys, girls, whatever gender you are. There is a reason that we feel the need to compare, because we don't feel enough as we are. Now, I guess recently a lot of my work has kind of taken me on the deep dive of, as many of you know, of the body editing apps. And it kind of escalated quite deeply as I was researching my book, and I realised just how much these body editing apps are everywhere. Look, I don't have a problem with filters and things like that. However, when we sort of modify our body or add a six-pack, or for guys you can add biceps, there's an app out there called Manly that I gave them the name of it.
I didn't know that existed.
Yeah, so it's been fun research.
Does it give you a hairy chest?
Gives you everything you want. So you can just bulk you up. You can tuck in if you've got any love handles, you can, whatever. Same with the female apps such as Perfect Me, Me Too, Snow, all of that is everywhere on our social media. But our younger kids, especially 12 to 17 and even in 20-year-olds, are constantly seeing modified images that are not real. So along with what Rod just said, this idea that we need to look a certain way to get the girls to to be bigger, to whatever it is now amplified because of the conditioning and the constant repetition of bodies that are altered on our social media. It
definitely can be a problem, but the way that I see it, like, really anything can be a problem.
Absolutely.
I know that social media itself is being demonized. I haven't seen that documentary, Social Dilemma, but everyone's talking about that.
Yeah, it's interesting.
But I just want to take another look at it as well, because all of these things, they're not like they're not the devil with inside what they have created, but it's like the reason people are using them.
That's my whole point.
And it's like the outcome for it as well. It's like, what are they trying to get from modifying themselves and putting themselves out there? And then again, when we come back to it, they just want to feel loved.
Yep, absolutely.
So it's important to understand that social media and things like that, it can all be, depends on how you look at it. It can be a really positive thing, but if you go on social media and you're abusing people and you're using it as a way to confirm certain things that you believe in and attack other people that don't believe the other things, which we see a lot, then social media can have this bad name. But it's like, can you use the platform like you're doing to share love and light to people as well? So then, there's just many ways to look at these things.
Oh,
Yeah.
so much. Like anything, it's like food. If we have too much of it, then we're gonna get sick.
Yes.
Same deal. It's exactly how we use it. But yeah, I think it's just tuning into why we feel the need to modify ourselves, whatever that is, in that sense, and I guess, are we looking for external validation?
That's a huge component of it.
Yeah, from that as well. And again, that's not from a place to judge. It's just presenting, I think, a question as to why, we feel the need to look a certain way, to fit a certain model, I guess, of society that we think is what's needed and
It's
necessary.
everywhere as well. You know,
It is.
the fitness industry, we're in the fitness industry, but we try to like steer clear of the marketing. So the marketing that you see for the fitness industry is like, here's a body, or here's what you can do. You can do it really fast. You can do it in 4 weeks, 6 weeks. You can get abs. You can look like whoever, like Arnold Schwarzenegger in 4 weeks, and all these promises. And what it's doing is like dangling this carrot in front of the people to try to get them to be motivated, but it's really using pain as the motivator, which is something that we just don't agree with. So we don't go down that avenue. We want to celebrate who you are, and we're talking about this just before, but setting goals.
Yeah.
So again, setting goals is not bad. You can set goals, but understand that when you reach that goal, it's not going to be like enlightenment at that point. It's like goals and intentions. We like to talk about intentions a little bit more.
Yeah.
And you have this intention, and then that intention could be something as simple as, I'm going to show up every day and do my best. And then that way, it's like, if you do that every day and you do your best, you're going to see growth. And it's going to be a little bit slower, and it's going to be perfect. And it's going to be in the direction that you want to travel in. But if you then take this energy of like forcing and looking comparison at other people, and I want to get here by 6 weeks, and I want to look exactly like this person, which potentially will never happen. So then you just create this lifetime loop of suffering, and it's not ideal.
No, not at all. It's I'm actually reading a really epic book at the moment, and I want to touch on this. It's called 4,000 Weeks. And that's it. If we live to 80, that's it. We have 4,000 weeks, and it's like, whoa.
Yeah, that's not.
And it's really, I guess for me, it's really becoming present, because I am obviously spending a lot of time researching. At the moment, I'm like, oh wow, how am I spending my time? I just went to reach my phone then. Like, how much time am I spending scrolling on my phone, or what am I doing with my time? Am I not appreciating this moment? Like, this is it, here and now. Like, if we can sort of let go of this, when I get here, when I look like, I know Jen, Rod's wife, spoke about this a little while ago, of when I lose 10 kilos, I'll be happy then. When I look like this, when I, get to 100 kilo or lift 100 kilo deadlift, it'll be epic then. No, because you'll be constantly looking for something else. And I did a bodybuilding competition myself. Actually, I think it was just when I met Rod after that. And I started handstands. He's like, you need to back bend, like you back's
open up.
Yes, And it was, again, I thought that when I completed that, I'd be perfect, but I literally, I probably hated my body more in this state. And I finished, and I just felt so unfulfilled. So I then went and ran 90 Ks in Africa in a marathon, again, to fill a space in my heart that I needed to fill from the internal. Nothing external could fix the self-love that I was missing. So it forced me, is what Rod said, to actually dive in and go, I actually need to come back to increasing my self-worth and learning what I need to do to come back to love and compassion.
Because all of those things, the bodybuilding competition, the marathon, all these things, that's not bad. There's no judgment there. It's not good or bad. Everything, if you want to do something and you've got the right intention leading into it, and it is good for you and it brings you joy, then go for it. But you need to start to ask the questions on why you're doing certain things, and that's where the conversation can start. Why am I doing this? Am I forcing myself to do that to pull an outcome out of that situation? And then if you've had the same pattern play out over and over again with different things in your life, then you can start to unravel and start to pull the thread of like, oh yeah, I did this to try to gain that didn't work. I did this to try, that didn't work. But what are we actually chasing, and what are we searching for? And again, it's just love.
It is. We're going to mention that so much. And
it's like funny now, because that's
Yeah, it's
Send it light.
everything. And love's, as we know, like, not to talk too much on vibrations and energy, but it fucking feels good. Love feels good. Gratitude feels good. Appreciation feels good. Just to accept the skin we're in without the need for more. To go, wow, like, I actually have got 2 feet and a heartbeat today. I don't need any more than that. I get to have today.
Very simple,
And it just really lifts us up. And just one thing I want to touch on there as well, and I know you've probably experienced this also, but that numbing and running, as I said, running from the things that we don't want to feel. It's easy in the world we're in when we do feel judgment or comparison or faced with competition, to actually not sit with it, as what Rod was saying before, to sit and actually investigate, or to ask the question, oh, why are you here? What is the story behind that? So we numb in some way. So for me, that was the gym, that was with food, that was with alcohol, with sex, with drugs, whatever. Until I actually gave myself permission to sit with it and ask what Rod mentioned before about why is he showing up.
Slow down and see what impact it's having.
He mentioned, I think it was like two videos, I think, back on your Instagram feed about this awareness of habits and patterns, and that was the thing, this slow down, this recognition, so we can, Rumi says, when we're quiet, we're able to hear. And it's like, what's pause, take a breath, or 10. And
it's like the answers will come if we slow down enough and quieten enough to start to listen to them. If there's always noise, and what you're saying before, if there's numbing and avoidance and these patterns, then you're always going to be like running away. And I'm fully guilty of this as well. When I was working, TMC probably like 3 years in, maybe 2 years in, and I just kept hitting a wall. I kept almost having like these breakdowns where I felt like I was just burnt out and I couldn't take anymore. So what I used to do was I would go on a trip to Bali, and I would go for just a few days, maybe 5 days. And I did this a bunch of times, maybe 3 times or something like that. And it was all chaotic, and I was like, I need to get out of here. So then I would just drop everything, get someone to teach the classes, and then I would go away. And then when I got to Bali and I was walking on the beach and I was going surfing, I was having a few bintangs and, going out partying and all that stuff. It was like all that stuff, I forgot about it. But again, all I did was put it aside, and I never addressed the actual issues, the root cause and the things that were going on with inside of me. I just masked them with something that seemed like fun at the time. And it was fun. Again, there's no judgment around that, because that's awesome. Going surfing and all that's perfect. But the reason I did that, the intention behind that, was to avoid what I was feeling. So then I would come back and feel like everything was like magically better. I'm like, got all my energy back and it's all good. And you might have experienced this after taking a holiday. You work all the time, everything's busy and chaotic, but then you step straight back into the life that you created and that you stepped out of. So you're immediately back in the same loop, the same cycle that you were running away from. So at what point are you going to slow down, recognize the impact, potentially negative impact that cycle is having on your life, and make a change? Because it's easier to avoid, but not in the long run. It'll feel easy for me. It felt easy for me to go to Bali and then do that, come back. But then years later, after I've been to Bali 4 times and doing all these other things,
stop fixing it.
Do you know what I mean? Like it's like a Band-Aid approach. And it's like every time I like come back, the Band-Aid peels off and I've still got this like cut on my arm. And it's like, well, I need to start asking the question, like, why is my arm cut? Like, instead of just slapping this thing so I forget about it. It's like, well, what's actually going on here? Who's cutting my arm?
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe it's me. It is me.
Yeah, I think it's also just showing up and taking ownership is a really big thing.
Huge.
And I know that we've both...
Responsibility, we call it.
Yeah, we've both been through that. It's like when we can just go, wow. So with my thoughts, with my choices, with my dialogue and patterns and behaviours, I've got myself here. And again, it's not in a space of judgment with that, but when we can just land into that space of a place of acceptance, to pause, is what Red says, slow down, actually go, okay, what can I then do to recognise my judgment when it shows up, to actually see it as a teacher, we can use our triggers as our teachers to go, oh, okay, because we have a choice as humans. We're so fucking lucky because we have this prefrontal cortex that gives us the ability to be present, and to choose again.
Another thing with that is it can be really subtle, and I think that the more you do the work and the more you start to connect with your parts, you'll start to see these subtleties, and then you'll start to see this complexity that lives within inside you. An example of that is like everyone sort of knows someone in their life that you would call them angry, right? They're just like angry all the time, and that's really, it's not subtle. It's like that part of them is driving the bus and driving their life, and you know it's going to take for that person to slow down and do the work to find out why they're showing up as anger. And yeah, it's just really important to I forgot where I was going to go with that one. What was I talking about for that? Anger. Subtlety.
Yeah, gotcha.
I was like, fully lost my train of thought. Yeah, subtlety. So then once you start to do the work, that example that I gave before I lost my mind was it's very obvious, is what I'm saying. It's very obvious that person is showing up as anger. When you start to do the work, you'll see all these things that are obvious, but then once you go deeper, there'll be these little subtle behaviors, little things that you do, these patterns and these behaviors that are having a negative impact on your life. These thought patterns, these beliefs, these values that you've been holding on to for a long time that are really subtle layer. And people in your life start to become, or they are, a mirror for that. So your partner will start to recognize certain things that are inside you that's either on this macro scale or this micro scale, this subtle layer, and you'll start to notice that within inside yourself. And I feel like that's when the work really gets can be quite complex, but also quite beautiful as well, because then you start to really become aware of what is happening and what you're actually doing in your life.
Yeah.
Bringing all this, like the subconscious, into awareness.
100%, and it's such a powerful thing as well. And I still have so much gratitude every single day. I look back, when did I meet you? Probably 7 years ago, 7 or 8 years ago, and I was in such a state of, I literally saw black and white. Everything was grey. I was so dark and so closed, and my physical self reflected that as well. And the people I drew into my life also were judgmental. They were a reflection of myself. Again, this is not good or bad. It just is. It was just where I was at. And I blamed everything and everyone for my circumstances. And I was also bringing the same. And I look now and I look at the people in my life and the friends and who's around me, and they just lift me up. And we are, is what Rod said, we're the creator of that. This reciprocity that we can have with humans. We're
responsible. Is what we said before. 100%. It's like you're responsible for every choice that you make. And if you say that you're not, it's a part of you that's wanting to avoid taking responsibility. That's it.
Absolutely. And when we, as what Rod's mentioned before, when we can start to dive in and recognize these things, such as comparison, judgment, and why we feel the need to compete, we can really start to unravel those layers of the onion, so to speak, without judgment, and actually give it the attention it deserves. And
non-judgment.
Non-judgment. It's just not. Gabby Byrne says is don't judge your judgment. 100%. Do not judge it. It's there. Say thank you instead. You may as well. The judgment's there anyway, so you may as well say thank you for showing up, right? For showing me what I need to do. And then this, coming back to love, I never thought I would feel the way I do. I never thought I'd experience full self-love. Anyone can. It's the most epic feeling, right?
The whole judgment piece. I work with this company called the Peace Timeline. And what you said, like this loop, don't judge your judgment. So they call it judgeception. Inside, because you get in this loop, and it's like, if you judge yourself and then you get in this loop, and how do you break that loop? And it's by having that conversation. It's really interesting. And then non-judgment is something that I've been experiencing recently. And judgment still comes up. It's still part of me, and I'm still working through all of this. And something that I discovered was it's like this feeling of like non-judgment. So it's not, there's judgment and, like you said, black and white. It's not judgment and not judging. There is non-judgment, which is neither of these things. And for me, it feels like observation. Like it feels like we're seeing things in the world, and it's the same with the apps. Like when I look at the app, it's like, it's an app, it does this. And you could look at it like, it's modifying the body and it can have a negative impact on that person. Or like another view of that could be like they're modifying the body and they think it's funny. Like it's actually just a joke and it's all good. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And there's all these other angles as
100%,
well.
100%.
So it's like, it's kind of doing away with judgment and non-judgment and not judging, and then this non-judgment, and it's just like just observing all the things for what they are. Because when they're like good or bad, that's when we start to judge them.
100%.
It's like, can we just do away with the labels and just observe and just see them for what they are? Because I feel like that's when some of the problems arise, when we start to label things, put things into a box, good, bad, this duality,
ugly,
again.
Beautiful, whatever. Yeah,
Exactly. And that's the thing with the guy with the question. What was his name? Mark.
Yep.
Yeah. Same thing. It's like, he's good. He's like fit. This other person he's looking at, or the other people that he wants to be like, and then he's bad. So he's already created this friction or this like disconnect inside his. Exactly. This labels.
Yeah. And it's just rewinding back a little bit. It's one thing I really love about Buddhism, and they say that it's just to see. Right, to see it how it is, and this is no judgment on my upbringing, but it was, don't talk about the things that are hard or difficult. This pretense to be a certain way or to present a certain way, to actually not say that I'm struggling or I'm suffering or this is really hard right now. But when we can see it just as it just is. Like, this is a really shitty day today. Just acknowledging that, or saying I'm feeling really like off today, or I'm experiencing anxiety today. When we can just say it as it is and be honest with ourselves and others, it actually takes so much less thought to do that, which means your mind is not going a million miles an hour, going back on the should've, could've, would'ves, or I should have said that, or what's it going to be like when that person, you know what I mean? Like, and so we just save and conserve so much energy by just exactly that, letting it be what it is. Some situations are not so great, some are great, but again, as what Rod said, it's not good or bad. It's the same with labeling food.
Yeah, this is a tough one to kind of like feel into as well.
Yeah.
Because we have had labels on things for so long as well. So to start to uncover this and start to understand that, why do we believe that this thing is good? Yeah. And then if you track back, you'll have all these scenarios or events or people telling you, or things that you've read or confirmed, to believe that this thing is what it is. But if you like zoom in and have a look, it's more than just what that one belief thinks it is. Yeah,
absolutely. It's I think the Dalai Lama says in The Art of Happiness, I'm sure if you've got that up there, you do, I saw it when I walked in, I was like, Effie, it's such a good book. And he says that if we base our happiness on the external, the things we have around us, the way we look, the house we live in, the car we drive, whatever it might be, he said we can lose it all in an instant. Yeah. Like, again, we're attached. So they say attachment is the root of all suffering. And, that judgment and comparison lies into that bracket. Yeah. So when we can detach from the things, so to speak, still enjoy them. It's good to have the things. It's not, and it's good to live in a body that serves you. Can we let them go?
Can we live without them though?
Yeah, absolutely.
Are we attaching our happiness or the joy in our life to these material things? Totally. Or if they were to, not be there tomorrow, would we still be happy with inside of ourselves? And that's where the work comes into it, because a lot of the parts that come up will want to be external for me anyway, external focused. So judgment and things like that, looking outside. Say it's like Mr. Success for me, and it's like, oh no, I want to be earning way more money, and then the conversation's normally like, cool, why do you want to do that? And it's always to feel loved. Yeah. But then you can just be like, okay, cool. Like, what if, the question is always like, what if we didn't earn any more money ever, and we were exactly where we are now, and this is how we lived forever? What then? And then you pose that question to that part of you, and then they're like, oh, and then you've got to start to work through that and uncover it and to love and they start to let go of some of these attachments and some of these things that they're clinging to in the external world, because actually it's just important just to come back home through like peace and contentment.
Yeah, we really have everything we need right here. But again, that's not saying we don't need all this too. It's about appreciating everything's around us, the car we drive, the food we get to eat, the hot shower, whatever. Yeah. But exactly that. It's just this, I think it's when we do attach to, again, and that comes into that joke of I should look like this or whatever, that we are setting a standard, I think, for ourselves that we could lose in any moment, as what he says in that book.
Yeah. And the importance of like loving yourself and then the people around you as well. You know, like think about the joy that the people bring into your life as well, like your family, your friends, the environment that you said that you're in. Everyone's really uplifting, so putting yourself in those situations where it's just like it's just love all around. You love yourself and there's love all around you, and then those things that, you know, some of those parts of you are looking at to try to be successful and all this stuff, for me it started to subside. It started to sort of fade away a little bit, because I know how important it is to be with really good people, and it's like the company that we keep and how we're treating ourselves and how we're treating others is the most important thing. Yeah. Like there's like this saying where, like, you know, get to your deathbed and that the person never says, oh, I just want to see my Ferrari one more time, or something like that, you know. It's like, oh, I wish, you know, there's some sort of regret for them, and they're like, I wish I spent more time with my daughter, I wish I spent more time
100%.
with my wife. So recognizing those things, and you have the choice and responsibility to do those things right now. There's nothing stopping you from doing it, so connect with people, and
absolutely. And just as you mentioning that, just to sort of wrap up a little bit, Bronnie Ware in her book The 5 Regrets of the Dying says that the number one regret of the 5 regrets of the dying is, I wish I'd had the courage to be myself and speak my truth. We feel we need it to look a certain way, and it's like this book 4,000 Weeks, like for any of us tomorrow is not guaranteed, so how are we living our best authentic and real self today? You know, the judgment, the comparison, it's really irrelevant in this very moment, and I think for me, just coming back to that authenticity just feels love for me, and it actually feels effortless. I want to just share this one more question that we've got, but then I want to come back to something that I picked up just about your son and how your authenticity around that.
For sure.
This is from Jackie. She says, my son is 8 and constantly comparing to what he sees on TikTok. How can I help him believe he's enough as he is?
That's a great question. So I think the first thing is like for him to understand, you know, Inside Out. I feel like that movie is really good to understand that is a part of him. So she could explain it like that, to say that, you know, this part of you that wants to compare to other people is like that part in the movie that's like Mr. Anger, the person that's kind of driving and wants to be angry. It's just another part. So can he build a relationship with that part and understand, like, why is it important for him to be like the people on TikTok? And then he starts to understand internally what's actually going on inside of himself. I have not taught an 8-year-old how to do the work yet, so I'd love to hear how that goes. But I think that's a really good intro into it. That movie is it explains it really well. And then if you can just, you know, switch out the characters for, you know, pretend that this one is the comparing to the other kids on TikTok. And also to another thing that's really important as well is celebration and honoring, and you as the parent showing so much love and gratitude to that. To your, is it the son?
He's 8,
and just really expressing with verbally and with your actions as well how loved and important and cherished and beautiful that child is, and bringing that up. Because if you start to bring this up, it's like the gratitude, right? If you don't have gratitude, then you start to be a victim and you're looking at all these negative vibrations. You start to bring up this gratitude within them, and they start to fill their cup. Basically, you teach them how to fill their own cup and start to understand that they are perfect, and they are just like, well, not even perfect as a concept.
They're imperfectly perfect.
They are who they are, and it's awesome that they're that, and they can't be anyone else. And another thing I think is like taking inspiration from those people, because there's people on TikTok that like are doing cool stuff, and it's like it's cool for us to celebrate and take inspiration. But then it's like, well, how does that child bring in that expression? How does that child bring in this creativity into their life and express it like them? Because they don't have to be that other person. How can they be themselves and express like in the way that they want to?
Yeah, so good. I add one more thing to that too. It's something I hear a lot of, especially in females as well, with daughters and in the sort of realm. They start relatively early these days. It's like, what can I do to help my daughter? She's not eating or following this trend. There's so many trends out there at the moment. But how are we showing up as a parent? Now, Rod, obviously 3 months old, Logan.
Yeah.
So this is this one thing I posed back, I guess, to anyone who has kids. I don't have kids. I've got a fur baby. But it's so important. How are we showing up? So when we look in the mirror to ourselves, what are the words we speak to ourselves? What is our little 8-year-old seeing? Do we judge our belly? Do we say we want to be 10 kilos out, or do we say we need to be bigger? So one thing that can really help, I think, is doing your affirmations, or actually both standing in front of the mirror and just celebrating your body, like even with an 8-year-old, a 6-year-old, whatever, and just, you know, saying thank you. Wow, I've got 2 feet and a heartbeat today, right? I love my belly. You know, whatever that is, and getting really excited about you as a parent. And they see that because it's an energy of love, and your kids
100%.
are going to pick up that you love yourself, or you're willing to put the work into yourself, and they're like, whoa, how can I do it? Because they're going to mirror you, especially as kids.
Absolutely.
It's so I think we can't really fix another or anything in that sense, but we can look into doing something for ourselves as well, and being the light that we wish to see in another person as well.
It's huge. Yeah.
As what you've got a 3-month-old.
Yeah.
He's watching everything you do.
Watching everything. I just said the other day, like 2 days ago, he learned that he had a tongue, and I was like, it's just so crazy. So he's like sticking his tongue out and he's biting his tongue and everything. It's so wild watching him develop and understand that he has hands and he's got a tongue, and he can make noises with his mouth, and it's so incredible to watch that journey. But then also, I'm really excited to show him the way, you know, like to set the best example. And it's like, it just comes through actions, because I can tell him a whole bunch of stuff, but he'll be watching me the whole time, like he has been. And if he sees me and the way that I talk to myself and the way that I show up and celebrating, you know, just doing my best and not forcing, you know, trying to grow the business or trying to be better or being like someone else and judging myself, but just sees me just being myself and in that joy and that love, then it's a good lesson for them to see that, and then they'll just walk in those footsteps.
Yeah, amazing. And we'll wrap it up on this, but I know, Rod, you guys are still doing TMC Kids here?
Yes.
So, as I said, movement really changed my life. It helped me learn that there's no end point or goal, and that I'm always a beginner. And that just shifted everything for me. It dropped the perfection for me. It dropped trying to reach an end goal. And it just changed my life. I found humility, and I just fell in love with moving to feel good, not to punish. So if you have kids or want to come and experience what Rod and Jen do out here at the Movement Collective, how can they get in touch?
You can go to our website, themovementcollective.net. On Instagram, it's _movement_collective, and I think it's TMC_kids for the kids page. But if you go to the Movement Collective site, you can there's a link to go to the kids page as well. There's like classes on every afternoon. We've got toddlers and parents classes, Saturday morning as well. Like there's a lot going on.
Epic. I might rock up. Sounds like fun. But thank you.
Thank you so much.
Is there anything
really
else you want to touch on or cover?
No, I think we covered. Yeah, I'd love to do this again soon. I think it was really cool. Like, I'd love to get some feedback. Maybe if anyone's watching the video or watches the replay. Yeah, maybe ask some questions and we can touch on a few topics next time that we didn't cover today. Yeah,
I really feel, again, from both of us, that I think we could have a conversation about how important love is.
Yeah,
and we kept coming back to that. But it's just
it's like the baseline.
It is.
So it's important to come back to it.
You know, and it can sound so far-fetched. However, like anything, it's practice.
Yeah.
And if you put practice and repetition, you can't grow a bicep just by looking at it, right? Nothing happens quickly. You've got to, maybe you can, it's 2022. Who knows? Let's press and be like, right. But this is the thing. You got to put in the work. We keep mentioning the word the work. And when we're ready to do the work, the universe will give us what we're asking for.
Yeah.
And one day something unfolds in your environment. You're like, wow, I actually responded with compassion and love rather than, you know, this need to be perfect or to compare. And it's just like, you just feel amazing for that. And what we practice grows stronger.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah, thanks so much.
Thank you. So good. Thank you. That was awesome. Appreciate it.
No worries.
Thanks so much, guys. Any questions?
See ya.
Drop them below in the comments and we'll get back to you on that as well. Make sure you're following Rod Cooper, the Movement Collective, myself, Watch Your Language. Thanks, guys.